All right, welcome everybody to another Twed for the spring 2017 season. Tonight we're welcoming Alex Schwartzberg, which I guess Alex is he's a member of a Titleist-related project. He's part of this Johnson Samuels additive manufacturing project. Part of the linked data into the data science team. And he's going to present this this really cool piece of work that started off picking up a couple odds and ends of the project at the tail end of last year. He came onto it right at the right in like December. And he's really refactored the code and organized it and turned it into actually a standalone thing, which he'll talk about. Couple of logistical bits, you know, we stream this to interweb, so keep that in mind as you ask questions. I'm sure Alex is happy to answer your questions. The whole point of this is to have this formal, rich discussion. So, a couple other notes. Remember to sign up for those lightning talks. I know people have been signing up. Check your spam. You'll find it in there. Please sign up. I'll start hounding you as we get closer to the end of the term, but I have to sign up already. So take it away, Alex.
Cool. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for coming here tonight. My name is Alex Schwartzberg, and I'm going to be talking about Magellan. So a little bit about myself first. I'm an RPI undergraduate. I'm returning from a 3-year hiatus. I was on co-op at Cisco. It was going to be 6 months. Tail spun into like 2 years, and then left there to work at a startup for a little while, and then finally ended up saying, well, if I either have to accept not getting the undergraduate degree or get myself back to RPI to finish it. And I'm here, and I'm mostly okay with that decision. So I'm an undergraduate, and I build apps, I build websites, I build circuits, I build Internet of Things. I'm really into 3D printing, I'm really into music. So if any of these things are stuff you're into, totally I'd want to talk about it. For at Cisco, I'm currently employed at Cortical Metrics. We're a neuroscience research and development startup. We make a low-cost solution for non-invasively measuring brain health, specifically in context of things like traumatic brain injury or concussion. So a lot of neat stuff that we're doing there, and I'm working on the DARPA additive manufacturing team with Dr. John Erickson. Excuse me. So what is Magellan? What are we talking about? It's an ontology-driven faceted browser. It's spun out of a utility we've been developing for the DARPA AM team, and it basically consumes data sets and ontologies that are in the JSON-LD format. Though you could, feasibly convert anything in the JSON-LD into consumable. We're looking at a backend at some point to handle these conversions in the app. But at the meantime, it is just JSON-LD. But it also provides configurable faceted search in the application. It's open source under the MIT license, and I named it after Ferdinand Magellan, who was the first guy to circumnavigate the globe, but I guess he died halfway through, so hopefully history doesn't repeat itself. So we have a lot of projects that ended that way. Yeah. So we have a little demo that we can go through. And this is actually hosted on Tetherless on GitHub.io. And this is really what you see when you open it up. This is the empty version of the utility. Nothing's loaded in yet. So we can just start by loading some ontologies. Let me see what I'm actually working with. So let me load in the friend of a friend ontology, FOF, because everybody loves FOF. So we can see here immediately it loads it up. We can go through individual attributes to see what's defined in each attribute in the FOF ontology. We can go and view a graph representation of each attribute to kind of see how all these different things fit together and how it interfaces with other ontologies like RDF or RDFS. We can go add some other ones in. Let's add the RDF in. And ideally, a lot of these things would come preloaded. Standardized ontologies that are used across a bunch of different data sets would be preloaded into the tool, but something I haven't gotten around to yet. So we can view different ontologies. That's all nice and good. So now we can go and try loading in a data set. We don't have any defined. So let's see. We have this one. This is actually New York Health 2016. This is a list of all of the health inspections done in New York State in 2016. And it's a fun data set, let me tell you.
JSON-LD format.
In JSON-LD format. Good one. So we go in, load it in. Okay, we have 1,000 items. We have some contextual information. So let's just go and see what we can do. So immediately we're in the utility, and it generates all of these facets you see on the left-hand side. Some of these are generated directly from the data set. Some of them are populated by the ontologies that we've loaded in. So like member, that's actually the RDFS member. And you can see that we actually grab the RDFS comment attribute that's associated with that particular attribute in the RDFS ontology. So unfortunately,
cool.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a situation right now where this data set doesn't actually have an associated ontology with it yet. So you see this DS prefix, that's the kind of New York Health data set.
So DS is saying this is coming from the data set.
Yeah, exactly. But we can go in and we can clean up some of these things too. So we have all the facets that have been generated, but who wants to actually search on all of these? So we can just go through and kind of clean up some of these things, make it a little more consumable by whoever's actually going to be using this utility. Let me see, there's some really fun ones down here, like permit expiration date. Ooh, total critical violations, non-critical violations, stuff you'd probably want to see if you're ordering food from somewhere. So we can go back and, maybe we'll do something, we'll rename the DS address, since that's not really helpful. So we can go in, a knowledge worker can just go in and modify this data set as they see fit to make it more consumable by somebody who isn't as familiar with the data as somebody else. So you can just give a description like address of the establishments. Enter that, and we can go back to our data set and you can see all our facets of update. Well, that's a lot more easier, that's a lot more manageable. And we can see that our little description goes in.
So is it actually, so the comment that you just added when you did that enhancement, is that actually going in as an RDFS comment, or is it just?
It's not yet. You mentioned this earlier, that we would like to make the facets kind of, when we define new facets, really kind of have those adhere to an ontology, almost a facet ontology, I suppose.
Something like that.
So that's something we'll definitely have to work on going forward.
But if it is provided, though, you are sourcing it from it.
If it is provided, we source it directly from an ontology loaded into the tool. Yeah. So now we can go through. We can say, okay, well, who's got 6 critical violations? Okay, so never eat at Sushi Thai at the park. They have the most critical violations of any establishment in New York State in 2016. Record holder. So maybe it's good information to know. So this is cool. We can go through. We can kind of check through this data set a little bit more. And all this just happens dynamically. We just add this data set into the tool and everything else happens.
So what's remarkable about this is, how many people remember S2S?
Oh, I use that.
Yeah.
Well,
what took Alex probably about 2.5 minutes, used to take about 2.5 weeks on S2S.
or more.
Yeah, once you were there.
Yes, very cool. And by the way, if you have any questions, totally interrupt me. I'm not going to be offended. I'd rather you speak up.
So there are a couple other things you've got there. But, so you've got the results.
Oh yeah, we have the results, and we can also do things. The default view just lists the attributes. Eventually, I'd like to have some additional configuration to say, well, maybe we don't need to show all of these attributes.
Well, yeah, so this was one of my questions I wanted to ask earlier today. How do we configure the results?
It's pending.
Okay.
It'll get there.
Is it possible to configure the facets, like the facets? So right now you just have them listed, but there was one application where I want to use a map as my facet. You just draw a bounded box, right? Like how if I had geographic data right now,
right?
What kind of facet would I get?
Okay, I understand. Well, we would have. There is a latitude and longitude facet here.
Okay.
We do have that is searchable, but we don't actually have a visualization to say this is geodata. Let's throw it into the map.
So I can show you when we next talk. I can show you an example. Deep Carbon Observatory is one example. This where it's got like a map view where you're selecting. You're in
what data sets within the bounded box?
Well, right. Yeah, you can imagine how it would work is if you've got that long, the more natural thing might be to show the applicable entities that certain that belongs, and then how do you
Right.
bound
How do you fence that?
Right, and I think that's what DCO does, is it lets you like select an area or something like that.
Right. Right.
But that would slow down and add more complexity to the overall thing.
Well, you know,
That's a question.
no, absolutely. It's a good question.
Yeah, so, you know, it's an accessibility thing. It's what you need when you, it's a logical thing. So.
Your songs really has that as a de facto search option. It doesn't really slow anything down. What slows it down is the number of things that's not searched.
Mm.
But the geographic bounding boxes and shapes are pretty standard in that.
Good to know. Yeah, and I mean, you know, in terms of actually searching this data set, it's not, you know, completely bound to just using the facets that we've defined. It's certainly possible going forward to develop different search interfaces to query this data. And I'm going to talk about some of the architecture behind the utility pretty soon. And then we also have some other things, the same kind of graph view where we can view a graphical representation of all the data contained within this individual result. And then also the JSON version for debugging and sensible purposes. I find JSON just be a little more readable than the table view, but that's me personally. So let's see where we're at. Oh yeah, so what powers Magellan? Let me make this a little full screen. So I've built Magellan mainly just using a framework that I'm developing kind of alongside it called Henson.js. So Henson's really a meta framework, if you might describe it as. I feel like it's one of those things nobody ever sets out to develop a framework. You just start developing more and more tools, and eventually one day you wake up and it's like, oh, I guess this is kind of a framework. But really it's designed for the development of scalable single-page applications. It's designed to help you develop these things really quickly. And uses a series of, it's really built with a series of frameworks that themselves don't maintain any real opinions about how you implement them in an application. So what Henson does is it kind of injects a lot of sensible opinions of its own. These are the kind of rules you want to follow when you're building something out. And really it's all there to ensure that you build a large application and it's maintainable really by, you know, small development team. At Cortical Metrics, we have a mass application that I've developed single-handedly, and I maintain single-handedly, and I wouldn't be able to do it if I didn't start injecting some of my own opinion of how things need to be structured sensibly to make these things work. And the other thing that's great about it is that it supports integrations with Cordova and Node WebKit. So you can also use it, aside from just building web applications, you can build progressive applications like mobile app or desktop application using some of these other integrations. So what powers it, actually, the stuff running under the hood? Primarily, it's a Backbone JS-based framework. So Backbone.js, you might be familiar with it. It's one of the early auto-view controller frameworks designed for JavaScript client-side applications. In a lot of ways, it kind of set the standard for how things went with JavaScript development for a few years. And then things like Angular came along and Ember came along and a couple things shook it up. But what's great about Backbone is that's a really minimal framework. They just give you the core primitive components that you need to build something basic. And then everything from there is your just devices. And that's where a framework like Marionette comes in. Marionette is just built on top of Backbone. It just applies a bunch of specialized classes so you can, you know, manage more common use cases from a development perspective, rather than repeating the same boilerplate code over and over again. And then, of course, usual suspects, jQuery, Underscore, Bootstrap, and Font Awesome icons. Font Awesome's great. Any questions about any of these stack frameworks? Cool. But what's it written in? That's the other thing. It's written primarily in CoffeeScript. CoffeeScript is a transpiled version of JavaScript, essentially. Right, CoffeeScript goes through a translation process and JavaScript gets it out. I personally love working in CoffeeScript. I think there are a lot of JavaScript purists who hate me for that. Especially since, you know, newer standards like ECMAScript 7 and ECMAScript 6 have really borrowed a lot of the syntax conventions established in things like CoffeeScript that CoffeeScript is starting to really be phased out by moderns that have stolen this in a lot of ways. TypeScript? Well, type JavaScript. I mean, it's the same kind of thing. It's a transpiled language.
I know, I just wondered if you had, because, well, I've been having to deal with TypeScript.
Right, you mentioned.
And I'm, I mean, it's sensible, I understand why they exist, but I'm just, you know, I'm wondering about the debug capabilities, whether it's this or TypeScript.
Debugging is actually fantastic. You, during the translation process, you can generate a source map for the code that comes out of it. And then whenever a bug actually occurs at runtime, it'll point you directly to the source file and number and the line, column number where that error occurred. So it's from everything, from working with it for a couple of years, I've found it to be just as debuggable, if not more so.
That's
than vanilla. That should also be true with TypeScript as long as you have the source map. As long as the source map is either bundled in the generated JSON file or it's loaded alongside it. Yeah. And then alongside that, for templates, for HTML templates, I use a markup called Jade. It's also been called Pug.js. They had to rebrand because of the copyright thing. Jade is fantastic. It's essentially writing HTML without closing tags. So you have some nice little, maybe I'll just bring up a little example.
I know a lot of people that go HTML that way. It work out so well.
Well, it's like what you see on the right here is Jade. I can say, well, class. You can see over here, so kind of fill in all these blanks. It's all indentation based, so you can.
It's like
It's like what?
It's like Python, Java, have a love baby.
Yeah.
Python HTML.
It's like Python HTML. It's a breeze to write, and it's fantastic. It has a lot of great features. You have mixins and functions for generating the same chunk of HTML over and over again. You can do iterations in your HTML. You can do a lot of really fun stuff with it. So as a template markup, I just think it's fantastic, and it really lends itself to developing things rapidly.
So it doesn't screw with your mind.
I mean, it's
I think you're just old fashioned.
Get off my lawn!
But yeah, Jade is fantastic. Pug.js, I really have to start calling it Pug. My dependency file still calls it Jade, so I keep calling it Jade. Definitely check it out. If you hate writing HTML, it just makes the process so much better. Because closing tags, it's like, might as well be banging rocks together. It's 2017.
What if you're
Passionate about writing. I don't think HTML5 was really designed to be written by people.
anything by HTML5?
And then similarly, I use a markup called Sass for my styles. Similar kind of thing to Jade. It's just an indentation-based markup for CSS style sheets. So if you also hate CSS, Sass might be a good alternative. It provides things like, native functions, mixins. You can extend classes you've already defined. You can copy classes. You can define variables that are accessible throughout your application. So if you have one, brand color that you use throughout your tool, you don't have to define them everywhere you use it. You define the one variable and then change it as needed. And it's great, particularly for working with things like Bootstrap, because Bootstrap 4 is written primarily in Sass. So rather than grabbing the kind of precompiled CDN version of Bootstrap, I can compile my own version using just the components that I need, and then just the variables to my own liking. And you can see some of this in Magellan right here. You'll see things like the squared corners on everything, rather than the kind of standard curved corners on a lot of Bootstrap components. And all of that's just happening by adjusting a couple little variables before I compile my CSS. So it's a really powerful tool. I suggest looking into it. Browserify in a lot of ways is the glue that kind of puts all of this together. It essentially allows you to load modules in your browser and in your client-side code. So you can essentially define a module and then load it inside your client-side code. And during that module definition and loading, you can actually transpile whatever's required through that dependency injection. So if I say I'm somewhere in my code base and I'm like, I'm in a CoffeeScript file and I need to import a Jade template, Browserify will be like, I'm in a CoffeeScript file, he's importing Jade, I have to transform this Jade into an HTML that's consumed by this CoffeeScript and then compile this CoffeeScript into JavaScript. It sounds more complicated than it is because it basically just works magically. It's pretty incredible.
I was going to say it sounds magical.
It's magical. It's like if you ever worked with Ruby on Rails and you do the Rails new or Rails generate command and all of a sudden you have a web application, it's kind of like that. There's a lot of magic working under the hood, but if you resign yourself to being the person who uses it and not who understands it, it's great. And then lastly, I use Gulp.js for doing things like defining my build tasks. So I'll say I have a development task that might define my source map alongside it, or I'll have a production task that will minify all my assets before pushing things to my build directory. Gulp is incredibly powerful. You can use it for basically anything, because at the end of the day, you're just writing JavaScript tasks that run inside Node.
So one of the things in this TypeScript-based thing that I've been working with that I've noticed is when I'm editing, and which is being made by Gulp, when I edit the TypeScript and save it, instantly
Right.
updates.
Exactly, and that's using the gulp watch. So you can actually have gulp watch specific files. So you say, oh, if this file gets changed or something with this file extension changed, recompile the JavaScript or recompile your CSS.
You start with a Node.js based thing, so it restarts the server.
Yeah, and it updates the server. So while I'm developing, I make a change and I just move back to my browser and my page auto refreshes and I'm just right there with it. It's the time spent between making an edit, saving it, and going back to your browser and looking at it. It just happens. You don't have to go back and reload and do anything manually. So these are some tools. I would love to talk to them more if you have any questions about them. So that's really what Henson has been built with. And now I'm just going to take a minute to talk about some projects that I've built with Henson, first being Magellan, obviously. I built the cortical metrics data portal using it, which I actually have right here. And you can probably see some of the similarities between these two applications. And really that's because they're sharing a lot of similar components. And it's great because if you're building a new application from scratch, and it's like, I need a header, I need a sidebar, I need modal windows, I need an about page. It's all this stuff you just get for free out the gate. And it's fantastic because all of a sudden you're not starting from square one. You can just hide. Oh yeah. You can just go 0 to 60 on a new project. So if you're feeling that inspiration and you just want to get some stuff out, it's a good base. I've had a lot of fun developing it. Oh, this is a chart.js.
Okay.
My screen resolution is getting messed up, of course.
So you just include that.
That's the other thing about frameworks like Backbone and Marionette.js is that they don't really have any opinions about how you implement them, which is great because at the end of the day, once you get past some of the frameworky stuff, you're just writing JavaScript. It's not like Angular where you have to, if you want to use a third-party library, you have to make sure that somebody's built a directive that's compatible with the version of Angular that you're using, and then import that directive and its associated dependencies and fight with it for an hour and get frustrated and all of that, because I've done some Angular development.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody say, in the end, you're just writing JavaScript.
Yeah. Well,
that's cognitive. That doesn't.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, you don't want to confuse familiarity or proficiency for ease of use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what you meant is like it's all JavaScript.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. But you don't have to, work with any special adapters or anything to make it work inside your application. It just will do what you need it to do. So this is the data portal that I built for cortical metrics. It does an awful lot. Actually, we have
very cool.
Several different. Yeah, but it's a massive application. Essentially, this is the data portal and the administrative tool right here. So we can manage users, we manage batteries that our users do their testing with. We can view user feedback and bug reports inside the tool, and a handful of other things. So this is just one tool that I built with using Henson. The next thing that I actually built, this is.
But your first one where it's been a semantic web app.
This is the first tool that's actually been a semantic web app, which is nice. But yeah, it's a great framework, has a lot of range. This is another project built with it, mobile app, uses the same framework. This is a product called Lyrebird that I developed last semester. And I'll actually just show you how this works. So essentially, it's a hardware and an app project. So you have this little USB dongle powered by Bluetooth LD. You can plug it in to any computer, plug and play, and then you can load up the application, and it should connect to the device. And then once it's connected, the application defines a series of interfaces that I can use with whatever computer this is plugged into. So it's a little USB dongle that, okay, it's a mouse, or it's a presentation remote, because I'm giving a presentation right now, or it ends up being a keyboard or a password manager, whatever whatever the app actually defines for interfaces on your phone, you can just use it with any computer. And the computer only reads it as a keyboard, so you reads as a keyboard mouse, actually. So that's another app that I've built with the same framework. Yeah, I'm connecting to my phone or Bluetooth LE, and then the computer just sees the keyboard mouse combo, and my phone sends the.
That's a huge thing. You anticipated my question, which is, does it work with Linux?
It works with everything. Yeah, cross-platform plug and play. It works with game consoles. It works with anything that will take a USB keyboard. Particularly, I designed it for doing things like password management because I came back to RPI, I'm running between my home office and an office I work at downtown and the library, and I use insane, unstable, ridiculous 24-character nonsense passwords that I can never remember, and I never want to open up my password manager and manually read it and type it out. So that was the inspiration behind building Hybrid. Yeah, so the framework works really well for mobile app development. Another tool that I built with it, something I've been working on as an independent project this semester called Pantograph. The goal of Pantograph is essentially to lower the barrier of entry to doing 3D design, specifically for 3D printers. Because 3D printers are cheaper than ever. You can get one for $200 these days, this day and age. But the problem is, the barrier of entry with these design tools is still really high. So having something where you can essentially the idea being anybody can sit down and use Microsoft. I think MS Paint was probably the first piece of software I ever used, actually. And any kid can sit down with MS Paint and just use it. And the idea being, well, we need something like that for 3 dimensions. So for example, you can basically start with any picture or pictograph. So let me just take this handshake. I'm just going to get a little screenshot of this guy. And then I can just go into this tool that I developed, take that raster screenshot, and I have a 3D version. I can do things like add a little platform to it. So okay, that's nice. I'll print it a little better. I can adjust the height, and then I can just download this STL. And right out the gate, once this starts up, this file is now consumable by basically any 3D printer. And you saw that took 10 seconds, maybe. And that's the goal of building like this, just make things really accessible. Or if you don't have any design skills and you're just like, I need a do not enter sign for something. It's just there to make it essentially a 3-click experience.
Let's say, is that a
That's a time estimate, yeah.
Because it's 3.88 meters across.
No.
That's a hell of a lot of goofy plastic.
No, that's how much filament, the length of the 1.75 millimeter 3D printer filament.
So what's the size of that?
The size of that is, I can actually, it's about 75 millimeters. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Believe it. So that's another cool
How did that now have to protect the hands specifically into space? How did it know about the space?
Well, a utility called Brain Fart. Brain Fart. Yeah. This utility. It's a library called Potrace. It's a Potrace. Developed years ago by somebody, I can't remember his name. Essentially, it's just a raster to vector library. I found, and then originally I kind of developed this thing. I had a server that would, you'd send an image up, Potrace would turn it from raster into vector and send it back down. And eventually I actually just found somebody who rewrote Potrace in JavaScript. So I said, well, that's awesome. Let's include that. And now the serverless, I don't have all that overhead or pay for it, which is great. So that's really the magic that drives it. I use Potrace to analyze raster, vector, and then I use 3JS, import that SVG vector generated, and then add some height to it, add some depth to it, add a base to it. And then there's another plugin for 3JS. They'll do an object to STL, and that's the final step that allows me to make it consumable by a 3D printer. Really, I barely did any development on this. This is the incredible thing. I feel like kind of a hack for showing it off. But it's a fun tool. So, and it's built with Henson, so I might get a kick out of it. And the last thing that I actually wanted to show off is this is something that I built for the Open Data Day hackathon last Saturday at TVCog in Troy. This is a kind of improved interface for looking at New York State health inspections. So if you're trying to save money by not ordering out, this is the best thing for you because you never want to eat anything you don't prepare yourself. So we can check out Uncle Sam's lanes. Oh yeah, non-food contact surfaces of equipment not clean. Yeah. Cooked or prepared foods are subject to cross-contamination for raw foods. These are red ones are critical violations, by the way. They passed in 2011. It passes 20 loads. Okay. You're doing all right. I wonder if Mo's is on here. Oh, well, our Commons is on there. All right. Ooh, 2014, critical violation. Canned foods found in poor conditions, leaks,
Student workers would stop throwing them at each other.
Don't blame the students. Students have enough going on.
Must be swollen, yeah.
Yeah.
John, where's the from?
Oh,
I'm not going to do that now. Really.
There's nothing we can do.
I haven't yet. I totally want to have a slice of that.
what's that?
Yeah.
DeFazio's is
There you go. So we can check out Da Vinci. Yeah, Pizza Vinci. Yeah, they're all right. You know. So. Are you sure you want to go down this road, John?
D. Yeah, G.
They might not be in there. I don't want to look at Famous Lunch. I love Famous Lunch.
Well, how about New York pizza or Big Apple pizza? That's what we used to do.
Yeah, the data set's okay. There are 2 entries for Troy. Big Apple Pizzeria, all right. They're doing pretty well. Not protected during storage.
Ooh, I think we switched just in time.
Yeah, these are minor violations. This is fine. But this is actually consuming the same data set that I had loaded into the tool right here. This is just kind of cleaned up interface that's really purpose specific. That I also built with Henson. This was hacked together in 6 hours. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. It's fun, and I've not ordered any food since doing this. I totally encourage you to check it out. It's a nice little tool. And I'm thinking if there's anything else. Oh, and the future of Magellan. And we're kind of John and I are figuring out the next steps. I think one of the places where there's a void, where there isn't a tool for this, is really building a platform for collaborative ontology development. There doesn't seem to really be a graphical tool for building ontologies or searching for existing ontologies and pulling attributes or classes from those to kind of repeat yourself less when you're doing new things.
This is where you really want to have a heart-to-heart with people like McCusker and stuff like that. There's some of the stuff, particularly in the human meeting, is really at the bleeding edge. So I'm not just disagreeing with you, but I'm saying, there are opportunities for collaboration.
Yeah, no, definitely. I would love to not work on this alone. And then doing other things like distributable fast search configurations. So you can say, here's a data set, here are the facets you need, just use that. For somebody who might not have the knowledge base of really being familiar with the data. Doing things like saved search, adding additional visualizations, mapped to different chart.js options, and just a couple other features that we've been figuring out. And I think that
I think one of the things that is so that this collaborative aspect is really important. You go to the view, go to Magellan, and where you're going in and editing faster.
Yeah.
So this is action. This idea of persistingness. Well, either using artifact comments as the thing. I suppose you could just always use it associated with that. But alternative having a sort of an annotation ontology where you're keeping track of that. It's a really useful thing that allows where you there's ontology elements, both aspects.
Right. Well, and when there is an ontology present, those are pulled from the RDFS label and the RDFS comment attributes.
Right.
So the goal would be to make it really not so one way.
Well, I guess argue is it would be just to always be ontology based.
Right. Right.
So if you're
So if you're editing this, you're actually editing the ontology.
right, or augmented.
Augmented,
That's the point. Because that makes it so that it's the whole interface is elaborate. You're by allowing this sort of augmentation by an expert, you're augmenting the ontology, but you're also giving this ability to add and drop fast cells. So you're making that interface by the expert. You're saying, okay, this is what I use. And with the
If you allow them the base
I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's more like augmenting. Not saying. So with the AIDS project, there was a need for the experts to contribute definitions, that sort of thing. So being able to put that in and also cite sources for that. I don't want to go into too much depth in that, but this idea of providing the expert the easy ability to do that, and here you're doing it in context of the actual finalization. I think one of the big things is being able to customize that result facet, the results alter how you in a similar way that you're customized fast being able to allow customization
Of the results themselves. Yeah, and that's my next. I actually blocked that out with this attributes thing that links to nothing that I forgot to take out the presentation.
Well, one of the things to pick up on the point is, with the geodata, that sort of thing. One way to provide that interface is through a search facet. Another is your facets are modifying a map-based interface. As you change your filters, you're seeing a change to this visualization, which then allows you to drill in. So you can imagine an alternate view of the results. You're showing a list of results. You can imagine, like, for certain data where there's map, there's another tab which is a map thing where you're showing just that aspect of it. And with DCO, which you had a mouse over, so you can you had all these field sites where data was being collected, and you could, as you moused over, you see there's pop-ups with detail about each of those points, and you can drill into this. So that sort of augmentation.
Right. Yeah, and that's a lot of the directionally where I want a lot of things to go is to have different facets that are configurable, different search options that are configurable, result views that are configurable. So on good. I mean, I'm the sole developer working on this, so it's a lot of it's just meeting the weekly deadlines, and
That's right.
I don't have the luxury. I'm gonna pour a glass of whiskey and just try this.
Are you not trying to upset the various project managers who want 25%?
You have the
This app? Henson. Yes, it is scarcely documented. When I say scarcely documented, it is completely lacking documentation of any kind. Which I apologize for, and I would really love to improve on that. It's at this point I am the only person using it. It's really more of a thing I use to just abstract commonly used components I have. But I actually have a friend who's on co-op and DMT right now. He's actually using it for a project. So who knows? We'll get more people working on it.
This is what the issues are.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is
You should all learn CoffeeScript and join the Henson JS team. Yeah.
I thought that was the purpose is to improve. Trying to get
people
to do it.
Somebody told me about not my PhD. Let me jump down.
No, there isn't. In fact, it's all being using indexed DB to do the local storage that you load in. So it isn't actually triple store. It's just the JSON-LD that you load in is just stored locally. I use an adapter called Dexy.js or Dexy.db. It's basically IndexedDB with a nice interface layer on top of it, so you don't actually have to interface with IndexedDB directly because that's nightmarish. Yeah, Dexy's fantastic.
Do
Dexy.org.
you have the other examples of the JSON-LD mode other than the New York State data or the DARPA data?
I have the DARPA data and I have the New York State data, and that's actually it right now, unfortunately. I haven't had more opportunities to get different data sets to throw into it.
So you store all the JSON-LD locally. Does it scale for very large data sets yet?
It scaled pretty gracefully. I loaded in something the other week that I think was about 7,000. It was a little slow generating the facets, but that's only something that has to happen once. After that, it's pretty efficient. I do have to optimize that encode base certainly. Definitely not. No.
Oh, because it's all browser-based.
Yeah, it's all browser-based. But what's good about Magellan is that at this point, everything having to do with fetching data from whatever data store you're using is defined as a single interface. So it is conceivable that we could add a configuration page to that interface, just say point at this API or use this triple store or do something else. So it's pretty flexible. It's not like higher things built on this one DexyDB, and if I remove it, everything's going to break. And a lot of that's using patterns that I've using opinions I've established on sense and make these things really flexible in terms of development. The idea being that you're not locked in just building web apps or just building mobile apps or just building desktop apps. It's just you can really shift it to what you need to do. But yeah, no, that's a great question. That's something I've been. That's looming terror in the back of my head. Like at one point, I'm gonna overload this thing, and I'm gonna have to refactor. So.
It feels more
I'm completely on S2S.
I don't think any of our partners use that service. Well, that's old shit. I mean, the first version of DCO used S2S, and then we switched over very quickly to the side data to where we went to.
Great fast intelligence services for S2S.
Right. That was kind of an early approach, and frankly powerful, but it had scale problems.
Yeah, and like getting something like running.
Well, there was some complexity as well.
No, I do just have a single like document that we just define facets in their properties, and then you just add another value, create or web people.
Right. We have to realize that it's been, I think S2S dates back to probably about 2010. Was probably around where I started working on it. And so that was by the way, Rob Thompson was working on this whole home. So it's there's been quite a bit of evolution.
At least
But just how to think about that stuff. In Log B, we looked at it, and we had real issues with scalability because the IOGDS had something like on the order of a million data sets that it was representing in their catalog, and the parallel queries that we were doing was just insane. And so we had to just totally refactor how we did it, and we could make it tolerable by having a key value store. And this is a great learning to make the whole thing work. But then with DCO, we switched to our initial implementation of S2S just to give small idea of what it could look like, but then quickly step after just refactor that to each nicer sort of approach.
Elasticsearch.
Elasticsearch, yeah, they went to Elasticsearch, much smarter. Which I still think fundamentally is basically how you.
Oh yeah.
That's why you really get that kind of performance.
Yeah.
I mean, ideally, what you'd love to have is you'd love to have each of those fast as be the spark going off on the barrel, and everything more no smoke emitted.
Have every word as a really
Well, I mean, it works, but it's the performance that we issue, and that was the problem. Another problem we had on TV with S2S was S2S fighting the screen way of the kind of the cache set up. No, with the we had that I don't remember the Spark box thing that we did set up. There's a lot of things. Anyway, so any other questions about Alex?
Yeah, please.
So you've been developing so many applications. How do you generally design your application? How long does it take?
How long does it take to design the application?
As you receive better columns, different
I know that's an interesting question. I mean, really, I suppose at the end of the day, I kind of get into mindset when I'm working with it. It really depends on what the end result is. My first step is really thinking. I guess I think about it in terms of what are the functional endpoints of the application. You know, like I have a page that lists my users, and I have a page that I can view a specific user, or a page where I can edit that user. And then from there, I kind of define those specific endpoints in the application, and then essentially start by creating those routes, and then creating the views associated with routes, and kind of cascades from there. And then there are things intermediary, like we need to work with user models, so we have to define an interface to hit the server to get that JSON, and then something persist, and he changes that to the server, and from the server. When those requests succeeded, when those failed, and a lot of things like that are handled by backbone. So really, it's just Henson's more or less just the stitching of a lot of these things together, and providing a structure, and a methodology for building these large apps.
Could you show me that? Quick little demo so we can build it into Magellan.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Just for you.
Just for him. So like
That's serious. Why you're talking?
Yeah, that was a quick turnaround. That's also the thing where I think that's a literally one page application. Or no, I have two. I have an about page. So it's a one page app. So we'll just call this health data, and then put a little ID to it. We can just go ahead and grab on demo directory. Well, you know what I really should do first? I should go in and load some ontologies.
Yes.
Like the geo-ontology that's going to be consumed by this. At this point, yeah. But plans for backend that can do these versions are in place. And I have the code that does the conversions. I just, server overhead. It's such a pain. Yeah. And we can go load once more. I'll call this RDFS. And now we can go load in data set. We'll call this NY health scene. Load this data set. So load this in, has 1,000 items. We can search this data set, and bam, all these facets are generated dynamically from the data set that we loaded in. Sorry that this might be boring all of you since we did this. And then we can go in, we can adjust these facets. We can say what things do we want to actually have displayed when we're querying this data. And a lot of this stuff is, location specific. Like permanent operator last name is not something, probably not something that's going to be shared between more than one location, but who knows? Yeah, so maybe we'll go back. So we just disabled a bunch of these. Maybe we'll rename this to address. And go back, and here are all of our facets.
Now go to, was it member?
Oh yeah, RDFS. Member. RDFS comments and responses to it.
That's coming from, so he loaded in RDFS. And his comments coming from RDFS comments associated with that.
So yeah, this isn't the best data set because a lot of it's just using their own proprietary ontology that they actually haven't posted anywhere, which is irritating.
Well, this is a Socrata. I just noticed you had a Socrata row ID in there. So this is.
I do.
Yeah.
A row ID.
So,
also, I don't know if I showed this. You can reorder too. So. Wow.
Wait, there's more.
So Socrata row ID. Yeah.
So it's actually
Not yet. Not doing ranges yet. I'm the facets at this point are actually relatively primitive in terms of how they operate. But most of my next steps are going to be really refining that to not just scale more gracefully as we have more, larger data sets, but scale more gracefully to accommodate different types of searching data.
This is the graph
Generates one of these little guys. Yeah. And then. Well, yeah. There's a fun glitch here. If you open up another graph, it combines them. Yeah. So. I guess fix that at some point.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, I know all the little quirks. And the other cool thing, you can copy the JSON to your clipboard. So.
You can grab the JSON and everything that is selected.
No, I don't have export of a specific query in there yet, but that would be a good feature.
So here's the interesting thing. These IDs. That's a good example.
The row IDs.
No,
these. Yeah, these would be great to not have.
I think they're there for a reason because I think there's a special
and there's no label.
Right.
Right. Yeah, no, it seems that these are actually associated with. Oh, that's the other thing is you can
you're
link.
not embedding. You don't know how to embed things. Yeah. So there's no group.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And you can see things that are linked. Like I can click this little guy and it'll give me a quick view of the geospatial thing that's linked to this individual result. Exactly. We have different viewers. So can we do something like looking at on the DARPA project, for example, we are working specifically with directory structures. So if you have something that's a PNG, we can actually fetch that PNG from the server and render it in the view. And same with CSVs. We actually have an STL. Yeah.
It's supposed to let us browse based on the domain ontology or kind of ontology to show PNGs.
It's basically just a glorified image viewer. Exactly. We'll have some different quick views to add in later on. We have an STL viewer, but I haven't worked with any STL files yet, so I can't actually test it, which is a bummer.
That's
actually going to be really helpful when we start some of the data sets. I know, that's why I'm super excited. Yeah, and we also have a lot of DICOM images and some of the data sets on it. It's fun to be able to view and traverse in the utility. So that I think concludes my little spiel here. I'd like to thank RPI, and of course Dr. John Erickson, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. John Samuel, Dr. Peter Fox, and well, I mean he's Yeah, he wrote like half of this. So yeah, that will do it. And any other questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, anything you guys are dying to get off your chest?
Can you share these slides on the site?
I can. I can and will. Yeah, definitely. And I'm on Slack, so if you have JavaScript questions, please feel free to reach out.